here we are. There's 4 of us sitting around the table. What do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4 different phones. Now, granted, we're all adults, so it's obvious that we're going to have phones. I said, but what about children? So our problem that we're going to solve is what we think is the appropriate age for children to have a phone. And I can't get a good feed. So, since we have my friends over, Sean and Katie, they have children who are older, and we have children who are younger. So I'm going to ask them what their opinion is, and we're going to talk about what ours is, and we're going to see if we can solve what we think the proper age for a child to have a phone is. Sean, Katie, you guys go ahead and start.
Considering the fact that we have 4 children between the ages of 17 and 21 currently, it is nice when they become of driving age to have a phone, because you can always get in touch with them, and vice versa. If there's an accident, and we've had plenty of accidents in our family already. However, I think they need to wait until they are of age to start paying for their own phone. 2 of my children had their phones through their uncle at first, and my husband's children had their phones through their aunt. And our agreement was that we would not have any of the phones on our cell phone policy for the children. It was just mine and his. My son broke his phone, and it was 2 years old, and his father refused to help him get a new one, so he ended up going on my policy after my husband's daughters got put on our policy because their aunt decided to stop paying for it. This was about 3 or 4 years ago, and the problem is that we're paying $300 a month for all these phones, and none of them help. We have some children that keep their phones in a case, and they keep them nice. We have some children that don't keep them in a case, and they drop them and they crack, and then you're constantly buying new phones. Then you have the data packages. You're constantly getting ready to go over 10 gigs a month for 5 phones on a policy. So you're like, okay, you got to stop downloading this, stop downloading that. But I think that if they were of age and had a job and contributed towards their cell phone, that's great. But when we were kids, we didn't have that. You stop at a payphone.
Okay.
It is a good thing to have, but I think they really shouldn't have it till they're of driving age. If they're at school and they're missing the bus, there's a phone at the school. Call your parents. But when they're driving, and there's an accident and my son has totaled 2 cars, it's good to know that he can get in touch with us. So I think they need to be older. They need to be more responsible and being able to help financially to pay for it. They need responsibility.
And see, I agree with Katie. My husband and I had talked the other day. Our daughter is almost 7. I think that 7 is way too young because she's not responsible enough. And my husband and I had talked about maybe 10 or 12. But even 10 or 12, in my opinion, is still too young for someone to have a phone. Now, Gary thinks that 10 or 12 is a good age. And he has his reasons why.
I just think it's an appropriate age to keep in contact with an adult. That's all. She has sports, whatnot. Come get me. I'm at a friend's house, come get me. I'm not saying abuse it. She don't need a data package and all that, but I think she needs some kind of contact.
They can have it for school, and as soon as they get home, it gets put up because they're home. They're not contacting their friends. They're not playing games.
And I know, too, another problem with that is a lot of schools nowadays, if you go into their office to use their phone, they want to try and charge you.
You know how many times my son got his phone taken away his junior and senior year of high school?
Right.
You can't even have it in your pocket. They see it. They don't know if it's an iPod or a phone. They automatically take it. You can't have that in school.
Right. And I think that, and I understand that, it's a great thing to have nowadays because the kids can stay in contact with their parents. But all 4 of us sitting around this table played sports, had extracurricular activities.
Sitting out in the rain waiting for your parents to come because they forgot and you got to go in and find the phone.
Right.
I understand having a phone that's easy, but the kids, I think they need to learn responsibility.
And I
so when they
agree.
come in through the front door, put your phone up. You can't have it till you go to school the next day.
And I agree. And then, like I was saying, all 4 of us made it. We're still alive. I mean, yeah, we may have had to go in and borrow the school's phone, or our parents were late picking us up, but...
We've had plenty of phone in a bag of rice before because they dropped it
Right.
in water, or some of the kids have decided, well, I don't like the phone anymore. They're going to flush it down the toilet, so they think they're going to get a new phone.
Right.
And when aunts and uncles have you on their policy when they were younger, it wasn't that way. Now, my oldest daughter, she started out with a track phone. Her uncle paid for it. She had to come up with the money to put the minutes on her phone. And to me, that was responsibility. She got herself a little part-time job, or she took birthday money, Christmas money, and we added more minutes to her phone. Eventually, he put her on his policy. But that was the only one that started out that way. My husband's children, they were just given the phone. My son, who's younger than my daughter, was given a phone after the fact. She's the only one who had to buy her minutes to put on there. But I think responsibility comes with it too, because a lot of these kids, they drop it, they crack the screen, oh, it doesn't work anymore, I need a new one. And phones, you just can't go and buy it out of a bubblegum machine anymore.
Right, and I
know?
agree. I mean, granted, Zoe is very mature for her age, but even when she's 10 or 12, is she going to be mature enough to have the responsibility? And I agree with what Gary's saying. I mean, she doesn't need the data package. I think she should have some form of phone, but I think there should be some responsibility that goes along with that too.
Right.
I just don't think that we should be like, okay, here, here you're 10, 12, here's a phone, have at it. I've seen phones for children, which I really like this idea, where you can only program in 911 and like mom, dad, grandparents, stuff like that, and in case of emergencies. Now that, I would get her when she turned 10 or 12. But I think children nowadays are growing up in such a technologically advanced world that it's like they think it's, okay, I'm a certain age, it's time for me to get my phone.
Or they think that that's what everyone else has, I need to have it too. They think it's a privilege, and it really is a privilege. It's not something that should just be handed to them. I think it needs to show responsibility. Grades need to be there. You need to come home on time. You need to let us know where you're at. Yes, the phone is a good thing, but I think it's a crutch, considering we didn't have that growing up.
Right, and we turned out just fine.
But I do like knowing that I can call my kids. But there's also the fact that they don't want to answer the phone. They don't have to.
Right.
Unless you have that app on your phone, Find My Phone, and you put the phone number in, you're not going to know where your kids are.
Right. And see, that's my thing too, is, I mean, I think Zoe would be able to handle that, because I mean, she's 6 years old now, and she's got a tablet, and she's, for the most part, responsible with it. But there's privileges, like you said, there's privileges that go along with it. I mean, if she does bad in school, or if she's bad at home, she doesn't get that tablet time. And I think with a phone, she would want to do what she does with her tablet, and she wouldn't understand responsibility.
Well, what do you think?
Yeah, what do you...
You put your girls on our policy a few years ago. And since then, Celeste has bought her own phone because she cracked the first one. Danielle's never bought a phone. She went through an iPhone, then she went through a Samsung. Then you just gave her your new Samsung because her other one had a cracked screen. And now you're back to the iPhone 3, so you have the oldest phone out of all of us. And Karina is on her own plan, paying for it for herself, but she's almost 22. So we still have 3 children on our phone policy, and only one has offered to give us money towards the bill. The other one isn't working, and the other one said, no, if you're going to charge me, I'm going to go off the phone policy.
I don't know.
All right, Gary, what do you think? How are we going to solve this problem without Zoe and her phone? We have to come to some sort of unanimous decision.
Well, I think she just might need one for the emergency or get a hold of me purposes, and it's the small one, like you said, it's programmed to a certain number, and that's it, not a texting phone.
Right, and I totally agree with you. I think she needs that. I mean, she's going to get older, she's going to have friends,
but I think that she needs that to be able to get a hold of mom and dad. But I think that she doesn't need anything more advanced than that until she can pay for it herself, whether it's chores around the house or
Saving up birthday money
saving
to
up
get an
birthday
upgrade.
money, or just getting a job once she gets older.
Right. Cool with that.
Alright, so that is how we're going to solve this problem of my daughter when she gets older having her phone. We're going to start her out with a small phone and just emergency and parents, and then when she gets older and able to pay for it, she can get whatever she would like. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.